Итак, мы уже плавно перешли в ту секцию, где будет
So we're moving to the section where we'll talk about the general challenges at the intersection of artificial intelligence and the development of human civilization. We may know the literature of American writer Neil Postman. He criticized technology and said that new technology will never replace human values. He was even accused of Luddism, as if he were just like an English worker at the beginning of 19th century, was protesting against using textile machines. 30 years ago, everyone was euphoric about the advent of computer technology, and this might have seemed conservative, but today we know that technology is never about one-sided effect. It's both a burden and a blessing. Never either or, always both, and. Nowadays, it's an open secret that ethical issues are relevant for artificial intelligence and climate change as much as the cutting-edge technology. So now we're moving on to Microsoft Corporation and its sustainability goals. It's working on all of the 17 SDGs using artificial intelligence to reach each this goal. Today we have Mark Kroese, the General Manager for Sustainable Solutions team. He is in charge of Climate Innovation Fund with $1 billion in funds that deals with climate change issues. It's an interesting initiative when a big corporation is resorting to the instruments of venture market and to work with the ESG agenda. Mr. Kroese will tell us about the latest Microsoft agenda in this field.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mark Kroese, and I'm the General Manager for Microsoft's Sustainability Solutions team. Thank you so much for tuning in today. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk about the intersection of two of my favorite topics. First, combating the climate crisis, and second, using AI for good. It's no secret that our climate is changing and that human intervention is the root cause. For most people, that's really no longer up for debate, and it is a good thing that we are taking action, as our society depends on the stability and the predictability of the world's natural systems. This includes weather systems and other biosphere-based systems like our forests and our waterways. And human activity has dramatically impacted these systems, and we see and feel that and the effects of that on a daily basis. Our lived experience on this planet has changed, and it will continue to change. The science is sound, and it makes it pretty clear what we need to do about it. Simply put, the world needs to transition to a net zero carbon economy by 2050 if we are going to abate or even reverse some of these patterns and restore balance to our planet. At Microsoft, we see this as one of the greatest challenges the world has ever faced to date. It is a planet-sized challenge. We also believe that it's not too late to take collective action so that we can restore this much-needed balance and enable communities to establish long-term plans that will foster a future in which every person on the planet is assured an opportunity for a positive human experience. I want to emphasize that we see this as a collective challenge, and the world must tackle it together. This is not a challenge that any single government or organization can solve alone. And though this will be difficult, it also represents a huge opportunity to bring the world together. People often ask me, why is Microsoft so serious about climate change? Or sometimes more bluntly, they say, is this some form of greenwashing? Is this like a marketing ploy that you guys are really focused on climate change? Well, the answer is no. Microsoft is focused on climate change for two reasons. First is a very idealistic reason. And that is that we believe that we have a responsibility as a company to do our part and then go further. Companies that have more resources and live in the developed world, like Microsoft does, have a responsibility to do more than just take care of our own mess, but to help the world. And then the second reason is a bit more of a pragmatic reason, which is for Microsoft to do well, we also need the world to do well. Microsoft does business in almost every country in the world. And in many places, we are intertwined with the social and economic fabric of those countries. So if those countries and places are crumbling and falling apart, Microsoft's not going to do well. We need the world to do well if we're going to continue to do well. And of course, we just want to save the world or help save the world and do our part. So that's really Microsoft's interest here. As our CEO, Satya Nadella, and our president, Brad Smith, have articulated over time, we believe we should go further than everyone else and do everything we can. And this presentation is about one aspect of how we're doing everything we can. Microsoft wants to be the leading platform provider of technology solutions to environmental challenges. This really means that we have 5 programs, which are at the center of this diagram, and 4 large areas of commitment, which are on the outside of this. Let me start from the outside and work my way in. The first thing we pledged is to be carbon negative by 2030. This means that by 2030, we will reduce our emissions by more than half and durably remove the remaining emissions and then some to be carbon negative. And then between 2030 and 2050, we are going to remove way more than we emit, not just so that we're carbon negative within each year, but we're going to go back and remove all of the historical emissions ever produced by Microsoft. The second commitment is to be water positive. That means that in any areas that we do business, particularly places where our data centers are, we are going to replenish more water than we use. The average data center uses enough water to pretty much for a city of about 30 or 40,000 people on an annual basis. So it's very important that we replace water in any of the water-stressed regions that we work. The third commitment is to be a zero-waste company. This means to work in all of our data center areas on limiting our e-waste or almost fully eliminating our e-waste with circular centers at the sites of all our data centers and many, many other programs. And finally, ecosystems. That's what we're going to talk about today, is building a planetary computer to protect the world's ecosystems. Inside this circle, we have 5 areas that we work as a company. We have an operations team that delivers on the 4 commitments I just talked about. We are producing products and services that help other companies in the world deliver on their carbon or net zero commitments. We are working across all of our customers and partners to deliver those solutions, to do co-innovation and sometimes co-investment with customers and partners. And finally, as a company, we are using our voice and any influence we have to help shape policy that will help with environmental causes. And of course, in the center of this is the more than 150,000 Microsoft employees, all of them who are engaged in doing their individual part, and many are thinking through innovations on hackathons and other employee engagement programs. So this is our approach. It is sweeping, it is holistic, and it's ambitious. So let's talk more about the ecosystems part of this. As I said in the earlier slide, we have 4 major commitments: carbon negative, zero waste, water positive, and build a planetary computer. I want to talk about the 4th part of this, the building the planetary computer. 1 year after we made our carbon negative commitment, we released our first Microsoft Sustainability Report, which is an update on our progress across all 4 of our sustainability commitments: carbon negative, zero waste, water positive, and building a planetary computer. Today, I'm going to talk about the 4th commitment, which is protecting the world's ecosystems with this planetary computer. So what are we doing in the area of protecting ecosystems in the world? Well, for starters, we've invested to protect more land than we use by 2025. I'm happy to report that we've already achieved that goal. We're also speaking out on policy issues to ensure that we use our voice and influence as a company to make sure to have better outcomes when it comes to environmental policies. We have also released grant money for more than 850 AI for Earth grantees in over 120 countries. I'll be talking a little bit more about this in a few slides. And this has resulted in 20 petabytes of freely available environmental data. We also supported the passage of the Great American Outdoors Act. And this year, we took this idea of a planetary computer and brought it to reality because it is now available in a preview state. So that's an overview of our commitments, a little bit more detail on the planetary computer. And let's talk about this Microsoft AI for Earth program. This is a 5-year, $50 million program that aims to change the way that we monitor, model, and ultimately manage Earth's natural systems. With AI for Earth, we are bridging the gap between, on one hand, environmental and computer science, and on the other hand, computer science, and putting our cloud and AI tools into the hands of those working to solve global environmental challenges in 4 key areas: agriculture, water, biodiversity, and climate change. As I mentioned earlier, the AI for Earth program now supports 850 grantees working across more than 120 different countries in 7 different continents, all focused on 3 fundamental goals. First is to increase access to cloud and AI technologies. Second is to provide education on cloud and AI. And third is to fuel innovation through research and strategic partnerships. I'm excited to share some of how these grants have had a positive impact on the world already. We've been working with OceanMind, a UK-based nonprofit that's working to help reduce illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing activity all around the world. And what they do is they analyze vessel movement and activities so they can detect illegal fishing. In the video you're going to see, you'll learn that 90% of the world's fish stocks are either fully fished or overfished. This is problematic because 20% of the fish caught today are caught illegally, which has led to serious depletion of the world's fish stocks. The information that OceanMind gathers helps governments determine what to investigate to enforce existing laws more effectively and help seafood buyers make much more responsible choices. Through Microsoft's AI for Earth grant, OceanMind will take advantage of Microsoft Azure machine learning capabilities to analyze more data in real time, faster, and more accurately, which greatly improves OceanMind's ability to help in the fight against illegal fishing. To learn more about how OceanMind is helping fight against illegal fishing, let's watch this 2-minute video.
It's amazing how much humans take from the sea.
Costa Rica is 92% oceans. We want it to be sustainable.
Illegal fisheries is a great threat. It's having an impact in our oceans and in our economy and in our environment.
There's many issues with sourcing sustainable seafood. We are trying to push for that accountability on the water.
Using Microsoft AI, we empower governments, suppliers, and NGOs at scale around the world to prevent illegal fishing in a way that just wasn't possible before.
At OceanMind, we receive billions of data points. Satellite images, optical imagery, radar imagery, infrared data. We used Microsoft AI to recognize different types of fishing activity, the identity of the vessel, and whether that vessel had a license. We find the suspicious activities so that our analysts can look and investigate it, and governments can enforce more effectively.
Now we have data, we can identify vessels, we can identify patterns of illegal fishery and support the Coast Guard.
The ability to have third-party verification is crucial in protecting us and our brand as we sell seafood throughout the world.
We are making our first API available through Microsoft AI for Earth to anyone who wants to help fight illegal fishing.
The time for taking care of the oceans is now.
We have the capabilities to change the needle on the sustainability of fishing. I am convinced that we will make a difference.
At Microsoft, we see that the intersection of environmental and computer science, of the tech sector and the world's natural resources is a massive opportunity. From a tech perspective, planetary data represents the biggest data sets that we can think of. The complexity of these data sets and the models that we run against those data sets represent some of the biggest computational challenges that we've ever experienced. And then the markets that depend on these natural resources are some of the biggest markets in the world. And we know that if we can combine all of this together, it will help solve one, if not the biggest challenge we face in the world today. That's why we came up with what we call the planetary computer. It's a computing platform that allows us to bring large-scale environmental data together so that people can train new machine algorithms. That's why we came up with our fourth commitment last year, which is to build a planetary computer. It's a computing platform that allows us to bring large-scale environmental data together so that people can train new machine learning algorithms, encapsulate them as APIs, and then deliver them through end-user applications and services in key areas of classification, forecasting, planning, and diagnostics or attribution. Now let's talk about an exciting new application of the planetary computer called NatureServe, which is designed to help protect endangered species all around the world. Globally, more than 1 million species are at risk of extinction. Without precise information on where these species are likely to be found, conservationists will struggle to prioritize their efforts. Regulation for protecting these endangered species will inhibit agricultural, housing, and infrastructure development in areas where there is uncertainty about the presence of at-risk species. The map of biodiversity importance here provides a portfolio of maps that identify areas that are critical to sustaining our nation's rich biodiversity. Through a landmark collaboration with Esri, the Nature Conservancy, and Microsoft's AI for Earth program, NatureServe, and our network of natural heritage programs created a comprehensive set of habitat models for over 2,200 at-risk species in the contiguous United States alone. We analyzed these models in conjunction with protected areas, boundaries, to map areas with high importance for conserving vertebrates, freshwater invertebrates, pollinators, and plants. These publicly available products provide an invaluable input to guide effective conservation decision-making. By integrating biological field data from the NatureServe network, digital climate and environmental maps, and Azure machine learning, NatureServe generates predictive habitat maps for thousands of at-risk species, delivering precision conservation at the scale of a nation. And this can also be done at the scale of the world. When armed with intelligent data, we can reduce the negative impacts and more effectively act to conserve our natural heritage. These spatial models comprise 200 environmental predictor layers and about 2 terabytes of data. So this is some massive data sets that we're dealing with. And it is all synthesized into a map view called the Map of Biodiversity Importance, or MOBI, that identifies high priority biodiversity conservation areas, a dynamic, transparent, and repeatable base layer to help guide effective conservation decision-making. It's really been a great partnership with NatureServe, and this is just one way that the planetary computer can be used to protect Earth's ecosystems and biodiversity. So just to close this off, the way I think about this is in terms of the pace of innovation. At Microsoft, we can help ensure that the pace of innovation is up to the task of ensuring a more environmentally sustainable future. We are ready to help you drive sustainability outcomes for your specific project and ultimately for the world. Thank you very much.